No, so had difficulty with the owl, so we are starting our meeting on 12/28/2022 at 6:14. In attendance is Jean Thero, Heidi Johnstone, and Norm Boucher, and Lisa Anderson as host. Okay,
We don't have anybody else. We don't have any public comments.
no public comments, so you can go to the second page. Minutes are suspended because the little fob that I did the minutes on won't let me get in it. So I have somebody trying to like unjam it. So we'll bring those to the next one along with tonight's meeting. The budgets are gonna be coming out on, we usually get them at the end of December, but accounting said we will have them in January. So as soon as we get that packet, it'll tell us what they're looking for. They're changing all the pages that we had done last year.
Just when we got comfortable with what.
I know,
what we
I know.
were doing.
I know. So we'll just, as soon as we get that packet, I'll send it out to you guys. And then I think we'll probably have to go to the finance committee or FinCom for more money for the roads for the new section. Remember, we got like, I think we got like $12,450 for the roads, but that wasn't enough, and no paving company would even come in and just do half a job. Like we thought if they just did around 8 the first year, but that wouldn't even cover them coming in with all their equipment.
Yeah, so it's.
So we would probably have to ask for like 25,000 or 30 just to do. And it would probably have to be in like increments of, so I'm trying to get Crestview said they would come in with the paving company that they use for the town, and they would give us a quote for the whole job, everything 8, 9, and 10 section to be paved, along with that half a circle that's in BB1, you know, that half of one. So they'll include that, and they'll give us one big price, and then they'll split it up into 2 years and then see what that kind of money
What
is.
about, are you gonna do any kind of road over towards Old Cemetery?
That would be, we could well, that left side of the new sections will be done, but then it would just be the road. I'm thinking the road to go over that little gully to get in there. That would be nice if we could see if we could add that.
Okay.
Cause but I think that gully, we might want to just widen, just see if we can widen just a little bit. And
cut
that-
off the-
I think we'd have to, because it's around water, we'd have to probably,
Yeah, we probably have problems with the conservation.
we'd have to ask conservation to say, look, to get a car in here, we don't want these overhangs. I mean, we never did before, but because everything's different now, we probably would have to go to them and just ask.
Well, some of those weeds just trim
I don't think
back.
that you can't dig them up.
You can't dig them up, but
Probably trim them back, cause I know that I have conservation issues with my property. and
Really?
I have to cut back, not remove.
okay, so you could probably cut them back and then just not
Yeah,
remove them.
In one sense, is that to keep that historic cemetery the way
Right.
it is.
Yeah,
I don't think we want to bring asphalt in.
I don't think so either. I think
No,
down that little-
just to get by the sand pit.
Yeah.
Just right there, and we probably don't even need to go over that little bridge area, you know, so that would be okay if we brought it right there. Because that might be a new section later on where the sand pit is.
Right.
Winter burial fee update, that's your first letter, and that is what it has to be approved by you guys, and then it goes to the select board.
Should I tell Gina there's a typo?
I didn't type it.
Is there a typo?
Please be advised that would like to add a
That
winter.
he was like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they didn't catch it either.
No.
So that would be $100 burial fee that we're adding to the winter burials, because last year we did it for free. Since we have Evan full-time, he's available, but it's not even, he already gets a salary, so it's not even about paying him. It's literally, it would be nice if we could cover the cost of the gas, because like the other night we had to run it all day and all night. And then that we had to come back 4 or 5 times
To
to
refuel it.
refuel it. So
What are we?
the little
Yeah.
generator that heats the blanket, that heats the ground so they can dig.
Uh,
So
Yeah,
we did that process all last year and didn't recoup the cost of, because we didn't know what it would cost.
Right, gas.
Yeah.
So it usually takes us like a day and a half to, we start 2 days prior, depending on the cold,
It's a good idea.
just to try to recoup the money back, for the,
Gas costs.
yeah.
That little generator is what we bought
Do you,
to use the power tools when we're on site and we have to pick up
Yeah.
snow.
It really is for the old cemetery, so we're looking at, Tractor Supply has some really big ones. Last year we used mine from home and it's a big one, and it would last like 8 hours. So we would set it for 6, we'd go back at like midnight, 1 o'clock and fill it, and then it would 6, 7 o'clock, it would run out again.
do you offer, as the sexton, do you offer these people the option to wait until spring?
Yeah, but actually, most of them are like, I don't wanna say the word dying to get it done.
Right.
I think that is
They
really
want it.
taxing on
I get it.
families to have
Yeah,
to
they wanna
like
put
do
full-
it all over again
I
in
saw
May.
multiple
Yeah,
there, yeah.
right.
Yeah, but some of we had full bodies that we used to put in that add-on section.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And we could still do that in an emergency, or if somebody really, if it was like family's not coming here and it was someone that had a big family and they were gonna all fly, but they're not gonna fly in the winter. Well, then, yeah, we would we still have that option.
yeah,
We're never gonna get rid of that stuff.
You have to vote on it or no?
You would have to vote on, make a motion to, charge $100 additional fee for winter burial for now. And if we find that the $100 isn't enough and we wanna go to 150, but I just told the last 4 of them to see how it would go. The funeral homes, I said, yeah, it's gonna be a winter burial cost this year of $100, and they didn't even blink.
I will do that in a second.
Yeah,
But one thing I can tell you is that when we started in, do the winter burials, I got phone call from Bertrand Adams thanking me that for us implementing that policy. Because ultimately what happens is the family in the funeral home decide when the burial is gonna be, and then they coordinate, try to get that date through the sexton, so.
right.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed today, I was drove by the new cemetery and the marine that we worked
Mhm.
on. Wilbert Vault Company, apparently, they have another outlet in West Hartford, Connecticut. Because he died in Connecticut in the VA hospital.
Right.
And so the funeral home was out of Connecticut. And so they had Wilbur Vault, West Hartford, do the vault. And then they had a Marine Honor Guard from Westover. Yeah. But the vault company brought a flagpole, an American flag, and that is half staff, about 100
Yeah.
feet from the grave on the other side of the road. And
We've never had that.
that's the first time I've seen that, the hundreds of military funerals that I've attended over the years. And I thought that was really slick. I
Mm.
like that.
But if we use somebody and they don't have one, we do have that one in the thing that we got donated from the church, remember? It had the American flag. It's just a skinnier pole, but we could use it to put down there for that, in case someone didn't
That
bring
wouldn't be
one.
that often that we do.
It wouldn't be that often. Most of those are cremations. Cause a lot of cremations now, they're finding that, I'm finding that since I've been there, the cremations, if you're doing a cremation, you don't always have to go through the funeral home. And so people will call and say, I don't really have the money to go through the funeral home. I'm like, you don't have to. You can do your service right here at the cemetery if you wanted to.
Right.
I don't try to take the business away, because we're not making money on doing it
It's
there.
just a bit-
It's just sometimes if you know they don't have money and they're hurting, then you can say, you can just do it right here. You just tell me what time, and it's the way it goes, but
So I get, at this time, we'll entertain a motion about that fee for $100 for winter burials. To offset the expense of gasoline, and we have no way of knowing what the price of oil is gonna be a month from now, so I think that's why. To make sure that that contingency, that there's enough there, that it's. Then why that. We need to compensate for the wear and tear of the generator in case we have to buy a new one.
Yeah, well, we're looking for a bigger one for the burials, and that way we're not using his small one that we really bought for the, it's cause it's just gonna beat up the small one. It's really not meant to run all day and all night. But, so we might bring mine back until we can use, get one, but Tractor Supply has a real good sale right now on them. So if we can get,
So does Harbor Freight with the Predator.
do they?
20% off.
really, okay, I'll have to look at that one and
So
compare
do you
it.
have a motion?
We're looking for a motion for that $100.
I make a motion that we pass that $100.
Fee for winter
Fee,
burials.
yeah.
We have a motion, we have a
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Unanimous. The account line item usage additions is, so years ago, we just had like a couple different things. They had one for, electricity, minor equipment, office supplies, miscellaneous supplies, ground supplies, and improvements. And now we ended up, supposedly, we were supposed to get a new line item for, miscellaneous for like, if we do like the, we were thinking of doing like the butterfly release thing in the spring for people. And that money, that's like, you would buy a butterfly, you would, we would charge you like, let's say it's $5 for a butterfly. So you would pay us $5, it would go into that line item, and then it would be like a revolving account. So the money comes in and then it gets paid out when the bill comes in. Do you know what I mean? We don't have anything like that, and almost all the different departments have different line items, but because we were not doing a whole lot of stuff, it didn't matter. But so as we go and do things, then we might have to add one. So that's what Laura just said. In the budget, they have a line somewhere in your budget for adding a new account line for that. For like miscellaneous, like when we donate the donuts and stuff for
Where's that show?
the
That gift account.
yeah, so that was on our budget last year, so I don't know if Laura just hasn't gotten to adding that, but that's supposed to come out of, so that's not on this, you wouldn't see the gift account on this. This is just like the capital funding is on the bottom where it says the roads, and then all the other account numbers, those are like, if I do repairs on the mowers, it would come out of that account number.
We get a separate sheet for the gift account.
Yeah, so that would be a whole different account. I can give you that. I can email you that tomorrow. And that just tells you what's in there. And it also tells you the one that nobody knew what to do with for the property for Bob Johnson. So that was the other thing. We couldn't get anyone in the town hall to tell us that what that money was used for, what it could be used for, who can touch it, what we can't, can we use all of it? But when we were looking to buy that land, accounting and treasurer's office, neither one of them
Right in there.
could provide an answer. And then it wasn't until Heidi told me that there was an offer on the land that Michelle then said, there's a account that has like almost 300,000 in it. I think it is even more in there now, but we can use the interest is taken off of that. We can use the interest on, let's say we need a new mower, we want to pay, we don't want to go to the FinCom or CPC. We can get the
that's-
money off of that. We can use that, the interest off of that. The other part of it is the bigger account, like the 300,000, that literally stays there and can only be used for buying land for the future for the cemetery.
That was from Perpetual Care.
Is that perpetual care? I don't know. It's really weird how it's It is.
Perpetual care is the upkeep.
One's perpetual care, then there's another account that says non-perpetual care. So I have two. So that when I sell you a lot, your $200 off the 450, 200 goes, I put it in the perpetual, no, put it in the land. So it goes in this account. And then the other 250 goes into perpetual care. Then there's another line item that I've never used because no one ever told me what it was, and it's non-perpetual care. That's the one that has all the money in it and can only be used.
Well, how
It's
does
a
that work?
trust and can only be used for buying land in the future. But
So
no
how
one
that-
knew that.
That non-perpetual account that has that money in there, where did that money come from?
I don't know. I don't know if they had a trust at some point, and I don't know if part of the money, like Laura says, oh, you should be putting some in perpetual care and some in non-perpetual care. I'm like, well, no one's ever told me that. So I've just been putting it all in perpetual care, which is fine because there's enough money in the other one, but land might go up
Well, of course,
someday. So you never know. And if we want to buy that property in the future, who?
The gentleman
No.
who bought the land. He has
No.
no trespassing signs all over the front. of his
I
house
know.
now.
Well, you know why? Cause that was because Bob, was still driving there. I think he would be forgetting that he wasn't, that his house wasn't there anymore. So he would pull in, so they put a rock on one of the driveways and just to kind of keep him out.
Gotcha.
I think that's what that was for. Legally, I think they had to do that.
but going back to Heidi said perpetual care for the stones. A lot of people have misconception about perpetual care.
Yeah,
Perpetual care is for the maintenance of the grounds and the roads, not for the gravestone.
right. Yeah,
The gravestone is solely the responsibility of the family.
right.
period.
And it says that in our regs and we kept that the same. So that is in there. And then you have your 2022 burial, thing. So there's 45 burials in 2022. And this one, the deed numbers and sale of plots. If you go to the last page, the last couple pages, you'll see that we sold almost all of, 8. So 8 has been selling like hotcakes. If
That's
you,
Because people want a place to bury their family.
yeah, they're buying a lot. So I still have to go in and color some of these, but if it's colored, that means there's someone buried there. If it's yellow, which a lot of these have to be yellow, I have to go back and update it, but if it's yellow, that means it's available. So these ones aren't available. And these right here, so in 8, the last row, we have 9 there, 10, 11, 12, 16 plots, and then we're done.
And that last row was all the way towards the back of the cemetery.
Going toward 9. At the road in between 8 and 9. So there's 8, 9, and 10, right?
Where is 8 in relation?
So you know where the big pine trees are?
Yeah.
That's the front of 8. That's what I always call the front of 8.
Okay.
And then the back of 8 would be going toward 9. So there's a road in between 8 and 9. It's that last row.
Yeah. 9
But when did we get this? This land was only available recently when I first started. We just got this surveyed, right? In 2020. So within 2 years, we have it almost one
Yeah.
section already
Yeah,
sold,
about establishing that sections.
right?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
The section closest to the gate, right where my.
Your family stone that fell?
My cousin is, yes.
Yep, that's one.
That does not seem like it's very full. It's a lot of space between all those headstones.
So that one's a really weird one. If you look at that map, next time I'll bring a map. So if you have questions, I'll be able to show you on a map. But if you look at, here's the fence. This by the road, here's the road. right? So here's the fence. And here's coming into the thing. They have headstones that are like maybe 2 feet all the way
Right up by the fence.
right up by the fence. So there's nothing on the other side because there's no room. So what they did here is they have let's say this headstone here is number 1. They have 6 lots and they're back to back like this. So that's why you'll see open space
Okay.
in between the next row
Makes sense.
down. That it took Evan and I a while to look at that map and figure that out. And then now we're going back and we're finding that like you'll have that, you'll have all these plots. And then all of a sudden you'll come up to this one and there's no one owns it. And it's like 6 lots. So I said to Evan, we gotta, once we're done putting the pins in, we're gonna go back and we're gonna look at this and try to research it and see if really no one owns it. If we don't have a file on it, we don't have a card on it, then, because all the cards now are in the file folders. So that means that's available for sale. So we have little plots here and there in the cemetery that even when you do a buyback, he bought 2 plots right next to each other. They're only using these 2. They don't want these anymore, but there's 2 in the front and 2 in the back. So we bought them back, but they never put it on a piece of paper or made a spreadsheet of it. So I went back and looked at all the paperwork that said buybacks, started a spreadsheet, and we have a lot. So now I made an extra column. We bought it back from these people, but we resold it to these people. And then I have some blanks that we never resold them. They just got lost in the, we bought them back and no one paid attention. So,
Because we were lacking.
because every once in a while, someone will say, geez, my mom's in section 6. I wish there was something closer in 6. Well, we might have a couple in 6.
Right.
Might not be right next to your mom, but at least it's in the same section. So when they ask me that, I kind of really right now don't have a definite answer. But I'd like to just go back and verify that those are really nobody's, So you got the 2 reports, the new roof, we got the shingles bought and then it got real cold. And Dave Sutton was gonna do it with his 2 people and he had a lot of employees shifting around and quitting. And so he couldn't get that done in the fall. We just couldn't fit it in. So that's gonna be one of their first projects in the so they are going to do the roof and then they are going to fix the garage door. That left garage door next to the office door, the wood has rotten over time underneath, so all the water keeps coming up. So we're gonna buy this strip that it's like almost like a speed bump, and it goes underneath the door. The door sits right in the middle of it, and it's just high enough to where it'll keep the water from coming in. So we have to do that, and then we bought a door to the office from the garage, a steel door. So now that'll be more secured. And then for fire rating and stuff like that. So that'll get put in the spring also. And then Gene is his CPC. So that's
So
this
that's
packet.
This packet here. And so this is a complete copy of what was
Which one
submitted
is that? This one?
to the Community Preservation Committee. The 2 sheets on the pages in the front is requirements for the Community Preservation Act. And so I probably put 80 hours into this packet, but I put in a couple minutes. I tried to show different people that volunteered throughout the last several years in there. So I mean, I could have filled up all the pages with the stuff that Heidi helped with me over the years. In fact, I would probably estimate without looking at any records, I would probably at least 20 gravestones
That's
that we repaired together.
a good number.
And so originally what's in this packet is Heidi was going to resign. I think it's probably a good time to say that she withdrew her resignation letter, and at such time that they buy a house and prepare to move, then she'll do the letter at such time. So
Right.
wanted to make sure it was in the record. And I was fully prepared to do the plaque, so I just did some quick research this morning. So Heidi family is 5 generations upstairs and the between the new and the old cemetery, beginning with her 5th great grandfather, Elisha Steer, who was a patriot, who originally was from Rhode Island, and he was a patriot of 1776. So he's one of 31 American Revolutionary War veterans interred in the old cemetery. And also what's interesting to note is that we're approaching the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. So that being in 2026. So there's a lot of events that are already occurring. So I think one of our priorities in the old cemetery is trying to get some of those Revolutionary War gravestones taken care of. Some of them are not repairable. And there's a page in there addressing that in here. What my goal, what my objective was to show that, well, gee, this is the type of stuff that happens if you don't have a tree maintenance plan, which I advocated several years ago, and they took money out of the CPC money for the old cemetery. So if you look at it in over 50 years, if we look at that $105,000 that we requested for those 44 hazardous trees, well, if you divide $100,000 by 50-something years, what's it come down to? $2,000 a year. What had happened was when they had that old cemetery preservation committee that was established and part of the America's bicentennial in 1975, well, they stopped and they ceased to exist in 1977. There was no plan to carry on what these guys' work was done. And so a lot of their stuff that with good intentions that they repaired back then have failed. So, you know, we're finding like a lot of breaks and all that. A lot of breaks that have occurred is because of the failures. You know, there hasn't been any maintenance over there. So one of the things that's coming to light from all this stuff is that we actually have a cemetery preservation plan. So you look at this is part of the cemetery preservation plan because we're trying to do the long-term for the future. We identified previously the priorities of how we're going to take care of it. One is that it's a safety hazard. And there's conditions in here showing the safety hazards. And then, because we certainly don't want anyone getting hurt in there or killed, whether they be visitors or whether they be cemetery workers employed by the town. And so these 44 trees that are in there are hazardous trees. Some of them are invasive. They're mature trees. You could look when we first go in that cemetery.
Right.
On the right, there's trees in there that they look like they're over 100 feet tall. So you look at those pine trees that are abutting the sawmill property that they extend in the back, and that tree fell into the cemetery, would take out at least 25 gravestones.
Wow.
So how are you going to repair or replace those? Well, that's another issue in here too, is that if we go to page 6 in here, 4 girls that drowned in Congamon on July 15th, 1899. You have 2 sandstones in here that are not repairable.
Right.
And then, well, you can't replace, you know, out of the CPC.
He's here?
Yeah, those there. So Smith Monuments, I got a quote from them. They would have done these 2 monuments in granite, the same color, be 4 inches thick. And they would cut them to the same dimensions and be inscribed with the same inscription and the same symbols. And then on the back side of the monument, we put an inscription that we replaced the original sandstone monument. Well, you can't replace, their interpretation is you can't replace. You can only preserve, restore, preserve, conservation. So I got a quote to repair these 2 sandstones, $23,000 versus 3,300 change for two new ones for granite. But the issue is that you could spend the $23,000 to repair these, but they're not gonna stand the test of time. 25 years, they might look like this again.
Right,
So what good did it do spending that money?
Right.
So, and then, I also provided examples in here of Revolutionary War veterans on page 13. So you look at the second one, the thing's all sugarized and there's no mass left on that stone. There's no way you can repair that. There's not enough of the other thing to do a direct bury that is showing.
Yeah.
So, and then there's sandstone on the far right that's so delaminated and all the rest of that stuff. And the one on the far left is another, all four of these are Revolutionary War veterans.
So how did you make out at the meeting when you presented all that? If you
Well,
can't
there's
replace it,
They're supposed to address that to the state.
to see what
historical
the,
folks and DOR.
and they're waiting
and
for a,
They're supposed to be sending something down there and. That's why I addressed it in here and I was very deliberate in my delivery at the CPC meeting. And they did ask a bunch of questions. And I wanted to make it an issue, and then Pat Ordeon was there about support this entire package. As well as replacement of the shed. Getting a new shed, so they're supposed to address that as well. So, it takes it. And then, of course, I showed a picture here, like on page 12, that page before that. All these stones of the welcome family.
yeah,
Every one of those was screwed up. And this young lady that's sitting to my right, her and I fixed most of these together.
really,
Yeah, the taller one on the far right, that thing was a monster. It probably took us 5 hours to do that one. Remember this one here? The one that was attached to the, yeah. Couple of these I did by myself, but a lot of these. I
I didn't
did.
know how you did that work.
Oh, yeah, it's a hard work.
so what did they not, they did come back and say that they approved something for you.
So what they did was, so what John Wally was saying, he was trying to break it into 3 warrants. About for these stones that, about the issue about needing replacement.
Yeah.
And about the shed. And then the third warrant being for the tree removal. And I said, we don't need warrants for the new shed and for these gravestone replacements because we have the money. We have the resources to take care of that because we previously addressed it and it was part of the package. What the issue is getting a decision being made whether we can move forward with replacing these stones and with the new shed. That's
Right.
what we need clarification on, so that we know how to move forward.
When will we get that?
I wouldn't hold my breath. First of all, they gotta put it together and they have to send it to Beacon Street, to the State House. Or whatever offices within there.
Right,
But for the tree removal, they voted and it was a unanimous decision to, I asked for 105,000 because I had a guy that we used in the past to give us what an estimate, worst case, would have it for those 44 trees, which I took photos of every one of those trees, captured the GPS coordinates, put it in a database, and I mapped it. It's mapped.
yeah.
Yes,
And
So they approved what for the trees?
they approved up to $105,000. So everything that we asked for the tree removal. So ultimately, when it comes for that, to go out to bid, where we ask for requests for proposals, they're gonna have to be very deliberate and say that leave no trace.
Yeah.
Cause I don't want them, you're gonna be doing 44 tree removals, you're gonna have heavy equipment in there. And I don't want the landscape all scarred. I want it to look like the way it was.
But they're not gonna go in there and do every. See, I wouldn't allow them to go in, I wouldn't want them to go in there and just start taking tree down, tree down, tree. They gotta give us a timeline and say, we're gonna take this hunk over here. We're gonna go in and we're gonna go in through the outside gate, or, you know what I mean? I would, because you don't want them going with their heavy equipment in some of those tight areas. I don't think they can
have
they?
4x8s, they have sheets. have
That they
them on-
put them down on the
they put 'em
ground
Down and be a pad.
and drive over
I
it?
think that also, cognizant of the fact that they should go when it's dry,
Right,
not mud season.
right.
Right.
So not spraying, not, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
So that's.
that would be a
what-
big. I think that's what happened last time. They did the backside and it was, when they dropped the trees, those trees are dropping, were huge. There's still ruts in the back of the,
I don't
old
think
cemetery.
Dropping per se, we should be wrenching them down, I think.
Well, some of them they do,
Some of them they drop them in it, but.
but then once it's sitting on the ground, like you said, if it's wet, it's sinking in. And then when they go to take it away, they take it away and then we're stuck with this big.
They're going up there with a bobcat. to remove the head.
And how we knew it was because when we normally go, you know, not flying, but when you're in the mower on the mower and you're going over the hill, you know, there's nothing there. You've done it a million times. Now you go over and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna take out the mower.
Yeah,
So
you
we're
know,
trying to fill those ruts like this spring with good soil and stuff.
So like
So that'll be good.
page 14,
Does the town have one of those heavy rollers to flatten?
We have a roller. We have to either put sand in it or water in it. I think it's a water one that we have in the garage.
Especially if you do it when it's
That's what,
flood season.
right, right. If you're gonna put something down, yeah,
so the package, like on page 14, shows the map of what the trees are.
Yeah.
Just looking at that aerial view from
A lot of
satellite, there's a lot of canopy, in there. And then on page 15, I showed that all the Civil War veterans that are interred in both the new and the old cemetery, there's a total of 26 veterans of American Civil War interred in the new and Southwood Cemetery. There's 5 in the new and 21 in the old. Then on the bottom of the page has the 31 veterans of 1776. And I think one of the things that we want to do, we want to schedule an event to commemorate and honor those 31 patriots. So that'll be something we'll be working on.
2026, you mean?
No, because we'll be competing in all kinds of events across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I'm thinking that we didn't want to do it in either 2024 or 2025. Well, you're not
Yeah,
competing with
right,
everybody
right.
else.
because there's gonna be so
So
many
then-
different things.
So then what we would do is we would, there's a Daughters of American Revolution chapter in Springfield. There's one, Sons of American Revolution chapter of Worcester, in Berkshire County. There's only 54 members in that Sons of American Revolution chapter, and I'm one of the 54.
You said Berkshire chapter or Worcester chapter?
From Worcester to Berkshire.
Oh, okay.
One chapter, the Sons of American Revolution. So I think I think what some of the issues are there is just that a lot of people don't know that they're eligible to be a member of the Daughters of American
I
Revolution.
didn't know.
Well, you are.
How do you know if you're eligible?
You have a relative
Yeah.
that was in the American Revolution.
So then what you have to do is do a trace, or genealogy. And
Right.
It was easy for me because my mother had done it. And then she shared with her sisters. So all I had to do.
Let's go
was-
from your mother's generation up,
No, from my mother down
right,
to me,
to you
because all the work before that was
was
done,
done.
and the records were there.
So are you on that? Are you eligible for that?
I'm
No?
eligible for it.
She's
I've
eligible
just
for it.
never done it. I
Wow.
wouldn't know how to start.
I'll help you with that, I'll direct you
Hmm.
to that. So then, of course,
That's kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah,
like my nephew, He's eligible. See, my sons wouldn't be interested in something. What would be the sense of doing an investment that be kind of nice to have the legacy and then carry on with your children?
Right,
But I know my sons wouldn't care. But my nephew would. Because he's gonna go to Norwich University, and he wants to be a commissioned officer in our United States military.
Yeah.
So, I may do that for him for that,
Right.
give him a membership.
All right.
So then, I'm seeing, and part of the thing is. Just to finish up with on Heidi's ancestry. So there's 31 Steer family members in the old cemetery. In addition to that, she's a direct descendant from the Cushman family. So there's 9 Cushmans in the old cemetery. And
know that.
Got a lot of relatives here.
17 Steer family members in New Cemetery. In addition to that, there's 12 Steer family members in Pine Hill Cemetery in Westfield. So,
There are some also in the new cemetery. You said that?
yeah, I
Yeah.
said that,
Okay.
17 members. So probably, I don't know personally anyone that has a more of a connection into our 2 cemeteries than Heidi does.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
So,
it really is.
so I wrote
I
these,
want those stats.
I'll give it to you. And then the important thing,
I remember that.
and I'll send you. Well, I downloaded 46 pages of Alicia's Steers Revolutionary War service. Yeah, including his pension, because his widow Lois.
She had a hard time collecting that, didn't she? Because they couldn't prove that they were married.
What?
That's what I heard.
Back then?
Yeah,
Yeah, so all those letters in there are in that 46 pages.
I would love to see that.
So
Hmm.
I tried reading it, but of course, it's.
It's very hard.
Yeah, I can't even read my own writing, never mind someone else's. But I don't know how big it is, whatever, so, but I think one of the things too is that would be kind of cool. If you apply for Daughters of American Revolution stuff,
Yeah.
because we could make that part of the ceremony,
I'll get
Yeah.
working on that.
yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
It can be expensive, it's gonna cost, just to apply, it's probably gonna cost a little less than $200 for that first year, and there'll be $75. Yeah. I know.
it's worth it.
yeah.
It's worth it.
So at any rate, because one of the things that what we're doing, what are we doing? We're preserving
Preserving
the
history.
history and the legacy of all these people that sacrificed to give us what we have.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
but at any rate, I put 80 hours into this, if not more than that, but I wanted to make sure you gotta make sacrifices to get stuff.
yeah,
And if you don't document it, you're not gonna get stuff, especially when we're asking for such a sizable amount of money.
exactly.
Did a good job.
All right, we had a monument issue with the Braska stone under the big, huge, what is that, a maple?
Maple tree.
Maple tree in section 1. That was too close years ago. The tree got so huge. So Joe and Evan went over and shifted it a little bit forward and put the dirt around it, and it seems to be okay. So we're gonna let it settle and see what spring and summer bring us. And the family was thrilled. So it's cleaned up around there, and it's a little bit away from the they didn't have to move it too far. And hopefully that it's not sitting on the root. So that'll help.
Yeah, one thing that I wanna make it very clear is that we're doing things far and above what other cemeteries do.
Yeah.
And that I mentioned earlier that the stone is the responsibility of the family or the heir.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot more than that because we have care and we have pride.
But we also get into the point where we're noticing that the heir,
There's no
like,
surviving.
there's no one surviving him. And so when we clean up in the spring this past year, we ended up started in section 7 and literally went to every grave and just took away all the dead flowers, and just in case nobody comes, we don't want the dead flowers to just keep
Right.
being dead. So we kind of clipped them back, and we know what's flowers that are coming up in bulbs and stuff like that. So we kind of like did a little more than we normally do. But Joe's really good at that. He loves that. And he went back in the fall and cut back, the mums and stuff like that, and all the
And some hedges
bulbs
that were-
and some hedges.
that
We have a
were really-
couple that we're gonna take out this spring. Over going up the hill in 1C,
Yeah.
those 2 big ones.
Yeah.
That guy I've been watching, and he has not come back. So he was an very elderly person, the last time 2 years ago when I saw him. And but Evan, it was probably 20 feet high, and Evan got it down to about what, 15, 12 feet, something like that, those bushes, and it's still awful. It's overpowering. It's moving the stone. The stone is crooked now. So those 2 will probably come out in the spring.
Yeah, and then there was a huge granite on top of the hill. Section 1, that was leaning like crazy. It was
Yeah.
Leaning like this and that.
Yeah.
And you see it going down College Highway, and I just finally got sick and tired of looking at it. He had screwed up.
That's
so-
usually how it happens.
So I said to Evan, I said, gee, let's try to reset and level and plumb that stone. So originally we went up there with the huge bars that we have, and we couldn't even budge that thing.
Yeah.
So I said, well, why don't we get the tripod and we'll lift it from the base. And it worked like a staff. And we were able to reset, level and plumb that monument that probably weighed about 1,200 pounds or better total.
Yeah,
And,
it's crazy.
So then, Evan brought up, I think, 8 6-gallon pails full of topsoil. And, after putting the crushed gravel in there to get a level plumb, creating the landscape and planted grass seed, so. And that's another thing that I mentioned to those folks, is that it's absolutely critical that we have good landscape around the monuments, because that's what keeps them in place.
Mm,
By removing these trees, it's gonna improve so many things over in the old cemetery, such as it's gonna reduce the amount of biological growth and lichens, all that. It's gonna get sunlight. And one thing that hasn't been taken care of, there's a lot of moss over there. So now we can finally focus on getting grass over there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have not done is we haven't placed any lime down in the. on the
well,
grass.
this is the first year that we did in the spring. We had
The new
a
cemetery.
company come in the new cemetery. He came in and he killed a lot of the weeds, and then he came back and fertilized. And then he came back and did a winter fertilization of the whole cemetery, in the whole new cemetery, in the fall. So he did that in October, I believe, late October. So that'll help start getting the grass to come back.
Yeah.
And there's some sections that we had the weeds killed in that 1B section that kind of goes like this up the hill. We have to go back with a hard rake all the dead stuff, and then put throw down some topsoil lightly, and then throw down some seed, and then that will look a lot better. Because now when you look over that way, all you see is brown spot, brown spot, brown spot, because it was all weeds. And then when we had them kill it, it worked. It didn't grow back, but now we got to go back and reseed and stuff like that. So that was never really a priority. And then Evan's getting really good at throughout the year. Once we do a burial, we go back, we let it settle. He puts another top coat on, and then he seeds it. So a lot of them have grass coming up, and then the ones in the fall, it was just too cold to do. So it would have been a waste of seed.
So let me just finish on the old cemetery stuff, part of the seed thing. So what we'd have to do with the old cemetery, get soil samples, get the pH level, and then from that, take the steps about what needs to happen. With the new shed, hopefully, what the plan would be is that, you know, we've got 8 monuments that are at an old shed, dilapidated shed, which really, why did that fall apart? Because of lack of cemetery preservation plan, tree maintenance thing, because those trees with the roots,
Yeah.
screwed them up, you know, knocked it off, all level up plumb. You look at the old cemetery, you got a tree that's growing on top of the old receiving vault. So what's inside that? Bricks. You continue to let that go, it's gonna screw up the structural integrity, and it's gonna collapse.
When you take all those trees out, right, everything's gonna dry up underneath. I mean, you won't have no.
There'd be more sunlight
There'll be
coming
more
on.
Sunlight going in, it'd be better, won't it?
Yeah, well, and then I also mentioned the fact that I have a depicting of, you know, discussion in here about the flowering plums. We've already put three of them in there. Similar trees that don't grow taller than 15, 20 feet. in
Yeah.
height. They don't have a wide root system that disrupt things, and they don't leave a mess with stuff falling off the trees in the fall. No, you can keep that. And then, in the shed, we'd have a dedicated mower over there with a mower guard, not a plastic guards. That doesn't scrape, damage the gravestones when they come around it. And then also a dedicated string mower over there. If you read the documentation, they don't want you using a string mower within 12 inches of gravestone. And the other thing is about, as far as like on the fertilizer in the new cemetery, I mean, the old cemetery, we wouldn't want to use anything that was non-organic because it could be destructive to the stones.
Yeah.
So what we would want to do is have mulching mower, and so that the grass clippings went back into the round landscape, and then have the natural fertilization from the grass clippings. So the only thing I see is it being lime, take care, get it to the right pH level, and about that grass cutting stuff, right? And then my recommendation is we don't put any windows in the new shed.
Right, so that price of 22 would probably come down quite a bit if we take out the window. I think there was a couple windows in there. But we could, because we were trying to make it match like that era. And that's when you say that to a shed place, that's the first thing they put in. But if we take those out, then it's gonna make it more secure.
We don't want people to know what's in the shed.
Right. And if you have a window, it just tempted to, because we have no security over there.
Right,
Kids like to break windows in.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, you know, if we need light and all that kind of stuff.
we got
we
the
could do
generator
the
for that.
generator, and then we could, you know, acquire a light stand with a couple halogen lights.
But we figured that shed would hold tables around the inside for all the work that you are doing on something that's on the ground instead of leaving it there. You know,
Yeah, then also too is that, you know, the bench and racks, cabinets to properly store stuff,
chemicals and stuff, yeah,
get that stuff out of the receiving vault.
and out of the back of your truck.
pretty soon. Yeah.
My truck is empty right now,
How about
Okay.
that?
yeah, except for lifting scraps.
So the only other thing you guys can take with you is the Southwick Cemetery rules and regulations. We're just doing housekeeping, like just changing some wording and stuff, some of it. So one says now on it and the other one says changed. So one is gonna be revised in 2022 or 2023, whenever we get it back. But if you look at the one that says now, it's got highlighted yellow. That's the stuff that really pretty much got changed. So if you went to that section, interments, and did the second one, you would just know that, you know, it says no grave should be dug by anyone other than those employed by and under the direction of the cemetery commission. Well, the commissioners aren't there during the day, it's the sexton, so we're just updating like who does what, basically.
Makes sense.
So if I buy a plot,
Mhm.
how many people can be buried in that plot?
If you bought one plot, it's $450 for that plot. It's a 4x8 plot. And one full body can go in and up to six cremations. And I say up to six because some people are really adamant about putting them in vaults, little cremation vaults. They're like cement blocks. They're bigger and wider, so I would only put 3. And they would have to go 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, if they're not in there, you're really in a little box. Sometimes people get a vase, so you're still just a skinny little vase in a 24x24. I can still do 6 plots.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, before we said 2, now we figured it out. And then how it would go is if you put 2 in, usually it's a husband and a wife, well, then their stone would go right over the top of them and it would say exactly who's there, We have a couple of those in section 5 that a lady bought it, and every time her families just pass away, she puts them in that same grave and their cremations, and they have a stone on top of each one. So she gets 1 stone for each one. So she'll probably only do like 3 or 4 on that whole.
Do you
Grave.
find that more people are cremating? than-
Not really. I thought last year there was more, but there's quite a few people that don't like that and still want the full body. So it's just a matter of preference.
What's the cost of lots?
A lot is $450.
So if I want one, I need to buy one before I go outside.
Yeah,
Yeah, then
I already got mine picked.
John Wally complimented us.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
He thought it complimented, said that was really well done.
Is it?
Yeah, we were really happy. I thought there's a lot of links and resources in there too.
Wow.
Um, If they had any questions, all they have to do is go to that.
What's the oldest stone you've ever seen up there?
There's some early 1800 dates.
Maybe. Wow.
Yeah,
Isn't there 1700s too?
yeah,
Because those were on the cards that we
Yeah.
found. So we found a metal box like a file box, and it had all these old cards in it, and it's actually the cards, like a death card for the old cemetery.
it's self-explanatory.
All right, so can we make a motion to close the meeting if we're all done?
No,
Hmm.
no, because we didn't talk about Levesque,
The best.
about the survey.
Oh, I thought you already did.
Well, no, I talked a little bit about this.
Oh, okay.
So
all
what-
right.
So
So
what
what's
we have
left?
to do, I spent some time yesterday looking at like the map shape file from what we got from Levesque for section 2. And then, so simply from his data, I was able to export to an Excel CSV file. So what I couldn't change in the map, the detail they put there, or the sequence of the fields, I was able to change that in the sheet to the sequential order. And again, to put pretty much any more data as I want. And then I can upload that, and then it gives me what we want to look at. And then say for like supplemental data, you add another layer. You could have a layer for, say, like, we're identifying where the veterans are on here. Say, for example, if someone served in the Army, say USA, United States Army, then dash. And then if there was a warrior, you then put the word or, say, Korea, Vietnam, whatever. If they were an outright veteran and didn't serve during the war thing, there would be USA dash. Then you could have another layer that identified any awards that they got, whether they're a Purple Heart recipient and all the other kind of stuff. And then you could play that stuff, and then also you can have an attachment to identify, you could have a photo of the gravestone. Like one of the other applications that we have, the field application. So you could go in there, conditions change all the time. So you could take notes, write the notes, and then it uploads and updates the map. So,
But you would have to take a picture of the stone and update, put that in there somewhere,
Yeah, I haven't figured out how that.
do that yet.
Yeah, but it's.
But that's just another layer
That's just another layer.
of more
So,
info.
but the most important obstacle into is the database of what's in there.
Right,
So now we know we can do whatever we need to do. So what we need to have the West do is finish, we have to give them the modifications that we did and new sections,
10,
10, and then tell them to finish those other maps and just press on and get it done. And give us the maps, and then we got the new printed map, and then we can start going full bore with getting the stuff updated into the Esri product. Because the ultimate goal is that to be able to account for vacant lots that are available for sale. And all that stuff, those be color coded and it would be in the map. And have it available on the web, so people could just do their own shopping on the web. Under. If they were looking at a Southwick resident, property owner, Southwick, but they're looking for a lot, it was available, never mind the fact that. You could have another layer that identified with features in the cemetery, such as trees.
Hmm.
You could have that stuff in there, so then, what we can do is, it's all left to our imagination and our hard work, but the hard work is the database type stuff. We have that problem solved.
we just have to get, so we're looking into getting, internet down there, whether it's gonna be a Verizon, somebody said you can just get the Verizon box, and connect it to the computer and
Yes,
it would be fine that way. That would be the cheapest way until we figure out, I think the town's Comcast has to renew, so I don't know what they're doing with that, but but that would be, cause then Evan, when there isn't a burial in the wintertime, he could be doing data entry.
Well, the important thing is, well, the good thing is that. He can do all the work by working on an Excel spreadsheet. And we can take the Excel spreadsheet and we can export that out and read it in the mapping stuff. So that you don't have to be, you only have one license for the software.
Mm,
So it's not multi-user. Unless we buy more licenses.
How much was this cost?
I forget what the hell.
which one was that one
For
through?
Esri, I think it's $500 a year
For a single?
for license.
Mm,
So,
And where is this? Is it in your computer at your house?
yeah,
no, it's in the cloud.
well, it's in the cloud, but he does it.
Gotcha.
He manages it.
So only one user can be at a time. You just have to share the password.
Right,
But, but it's not something that you can just go in there and think you're gonna do.
right.
It's-
Somebody would have to, yeah,
So
big,
That's,
big time.
that's why the spreadsheet is the path of least resistance.
Like everything he's telling you, all these different layers and all getting all that information in there, that's so multi,
Multi-level,
oh my God, it's not gonna happen in 1 year, 5 years. No, but I've been in something similar and it's data entry, but it's, you gotta, by time you learn how to do it, go in there, you just learning one level is,
Well,
What's the
one,
name of the company?
it's Esri. Esri GIS, and actually.
How do
ISRI,
you spell Esri?
ISRI,
ES.
ESRI,
ESRI.
yeah, Esri,
GIS.
I forget, we haven't,
They use that, they use that at the federal, state, local level. All that GSI mapping, you can actually,
I use GIS all the time with work.
so
Yeah.
find those available.
right,
But no one that makes an application that's specifically for, well, they do. But you spend a tremendous amount of money.
right.
There's not enough, like this quantum stuff that we have with garbage.
Well, then we found out that a few of the people that entered over the years are dyslexic. So when you go in there to look at a lot, your lot, it's really not that lot, so it's not accurate. And you had people, you would put all your data entry in. When you worked here, you did everything in all caps. You did lower end caps and you did, so everyone has their own method. It's just, so when you print out the report, it just looks crazy.
Well, yeah, not only that, it's just that there are no encode, decode tables, so then there's no consistency with the data entry.
Yeah.
And you wanna have an encode, decode table, in other words, a drop down about the allowable selections and then some logical data. You know, about making sure that you wanna eliminate bad data being entered at the source.
Right.
Yeah.
And that ends in Pontum, our subscription ends in this month anyway, so.
ARCGIS.com.
Esri, just go to Esri, ESRI.
Okay.
We were gonna take a picture of the group. Of the, you guys, because we were gonna keep it and use it,
For the next time.
for, yeah. We'll have to get together again and do the picture because I want you guys in your shirts. Remember the shirts you bought? We bought you guys, the green ones. So, so so then we have a picture to put in the town report.
Yeah, reason why Norm was in case we presented the plaque to Heidi.
If we accepted her resignation, which we didn't,
Yeah, right,
Oh, no, well, we didn't have to because she withdrew it.
that's right.
right.
We would have taken a photograph with the town seal on its background.
Yeah. That would have been nice.
And so,
Yeah, that would be very nice.
you know, isn't always a photographer available, so.
All right, make a motion.
Make a motion to, end the meeting this evening.
At 7:21.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Motion carries. Meeting is now adjourned. And we will meet probably